Hello, hello. Hope you guys doing fantastic today. The Legacy of Phrecia event is almost upon us, and it's time to switch from PoE2 to PoE1. Short introduction for PoE1 players because just recently I started making content for PoE, and it was only PoE2 so far. I've been playing PoE for a very long time, just off stream because I've been streaming League of Legends for like past few years. But it's definitely probably my favorite game of all time, or one of my most favorite games of all time. I've been making builds and playing for a very long time since like I don't know 2.4. Even before that, I tried the game. I didn't like that much. I think my first like serious league was 2.4, which was like Essence League, I think, or something like this. That was many years ago. When it comes to builds I made, I didn't make many builds. Only two build guides, generally speaking, but for people that play this game for a very long time, maybe you remember a build like this that I made in League, I believe 3.4, Immune Hova Jug. That was a very popular build, back in the day. And if you didn't know who Grizzly 40 is, that was me. So if you remember this build and like many streamers playing this build, then this is my build, and it's one of the better builds I made. But since then, we came a long way. So let's jump into what I'm preparing for the event. Let's be honest, this is basically going to be like a new league for us, but yeah, it's finally time. Let's be honest, we were extremely starved for some PoE1 content. That being said, I'm a little bit rusty. Haven't played for a long time now, for like 7-8 months. I stopped playing in Settlers League very quickly due to personal reasons, but we can make up for it now. All right, so what I have here is a Holy Fire Paladin. Decided to name it that way. Very original, I know, from D2. This is basically a strength stacking Paladin. Few words about Paladin first of all. The moment I saw a Paladin, I immediately knew that this class is going to be very strong, a very strong league starter, simply because of Summon Elemental Relic. To you that don't know how this works, you have 25% chance to trigger Elemental Relic when you kill an enemy or hit rare or unique enemy. Long story short, the uptime on these, there's 3 different relics. Uptime on these is going to be very good, and what they do once you summon them is that they don't attack, they try to play defensively, right? And they grant you auras, and each relic respectively grants level 27 aura from their element. So level 27 anger, level 27 hatred, and level 27 wrath at the same time. You can have all 3 at the same time, and that is extremely good for the beginning, early on. Not only early on, but like especially early on when you have poor equipment, because you're going to have massive amount of flat damage, and the only thing you need to care about at this point is pretty much crit, attack speed, whatever you're doing, percent damage, and you're pretty much done. So this is a massive damage multiplier, and other than that, this class has very strong nodes at the same time. Like for example, Bring the Battle, which I love. 20% increased damage wherever you taunt, and your war cries have infinite power. That means that, for example, you can use Enduring Cry, and every time you do it, you get maximum of your endurance charges. Extremely good, for example, while bossing, but also while mapping. You can use it, for example, if you take a big chunk of damage and regenerate a lot of health with this. Very good. Of course, Light of Divinity, in order to get to Elemental Valiance for relics. 25% increased elemental damage taken for monsters nearby, very strong. And at this point, you can pick from... There's I think, the best 2 options are Field Medicine and Anoint Champion. Both honestly very good. Majority of people would probably go towards Field Medicine, because there's the one small weakness that this build I'm going to show you has, which is not the highest attack speed. Usually I'm doing this build on Juggernaut, not every league, but like every now and then, and Juggernaut gets a lot of attack speed for free, kind of, from Undeniable, so it feels very smooth. It's not going to be super slow, but definitely it's going to be slower. So Field Medicine with 40% increased effective flasks will definitely help that because you will get more attack speed from your Onslaught Flask, more movement speed from Quicksilver, and stuff like that, right? And now the champion's still very good because we happen to path through Devotion, which increases the effect of consecrated ground you create. So that will be, with this, you're borderline immune to curses, and at the same time, you constantly regenerate about 6% additional HP per second. So that is also very strong, to be honest, and it's just going to be a matter of preference. But what I would definitely take is Light of Divinity. Elemental Valiance is insane, and Bring the Battle is also pretty crazy. And then, one of these two. But that's about Ascendancy. Let's jump into it. Where should I begin? This is the first time me doing like a PoE1 video like this, so maybe let's talk about the skill tree for a second. The beginning, the duelist area, we want to get some attack speed. Generally speaking, you're going to notice pretty quickly is that wherever I can get some attack speed, I just take it, because attack speed is going to be like the key stat. We're stacking strength, so both flat damage and percent damage we're going to get from strength. On top of that, even more flat damage from relics. So at this point, we pretty much want to solve attack speed. Crit is also very easy to get because of the item that we're using, Brutus. So and it's very easy item to get, which is another benefit, I guess. But we just want to get attack speed. So attack speed over here in the starting area, get life and armor. Instead, you could take 10% attack speed. It's totally, viable. There's a few places in this build where you can make a choice if you want to go more tankiness or more, defensive capabilities. So, this is one of them. I'm probably going to take attack speed instead of this, but we'll see. Pathing through this area, these very, very useful nodes, we, generally speaking, will want to get all the endurance charges and possibly another +1 from Alberon's Warpath, which should be easy to get. For maximum 7 endurance charges, and with Enduring Cry, maximum Warcry power, we will be able to keep those 7 endurance charges at all times, pretty much. Not pretty much, at all times. So that's going to be a very powerful defensive layer. And here, Little Pride, ignore the fact that it's, so good here. This is, I believe, 20% strength, something like that. Yeah, I had a Little Pride like this. I had it like 2 leagues ago. This is not that important. The most important thing is to have Little Pride in this spot to get massive amount of flat strength. Of course, the more strength notables you're gonna get, the better. They became much more expensive compared to the past, since Zenith and strength stacking became like super popular. But you can still get very easily for very cheap, with two 5% strength notables or something like this, and it's going to be virtually, I don't want to say the same, but it's going to be like close to, it's going to be reasonably like close to what you see here. Then going here, we need this +1 strike skills, target 1 additional nearby enemy. We'll be using the main skill is going to be Smite. I know I named the character Holy Paladin, but I should call it a Smiter, I guess. I don't know. Smite, because Smite is one of my favorite skills, and it is a skill that needs very, very little investment. With Vol Smite that you can use every now and then, actually pretty often, because it has low soul gain prevention, and also you can use it twice. You can store 2 uses. What it does is that when you cast Vol Smite, your Smite at the same time targets more enemies. You can also use Vol Smite of what was this name? Vol Smite of Divine Judgment, which is this version does a little bit less damage in total, but at the same time it has like crazy area, right? So you can use this one as well. But the good thing about Vol Smite and Smite, in generally speaking, is that it requires very little investment. It has very good numbers, and this is one of my favorite skills to start with at the start of the league, because it's just strong. It feels good to use, has good area. Vol Smite itself feels satisfying to use. It does a lot of damage, especially big packs of monsters. A very good skill. So very little investment needed. this +1 with additional +1 from gloves, and you're done. You don't need ever more than that when it comes to, you know, supporting your main skill. So getting through elemental resistances and getting the jewel socket and some resistances, you're going to notice that in this build I put some attention to elemental resistances in different places, like over here. Like over here, there is one more spot we're getting some elemental resistance over here. We're getting some resistance over here. That makes it much easier to itemize. Since we're strength stacking, we usually don't have that many suffix options. So getting some resistance on the tree is very, very nice. And then we're pathing here, Constitution and Iron Will. The reason why we take Iron Will is because we are doing basic concept, the most basic concept of doing Crown of Ice. So basically how it works is that your strength gives you % physical damage bonus. Every 5 strength you get 1%. It doesn't work again. It doesn't work for elemental damage. Like for example, when you're doing pure fire, Brutus or something like that, it doesn't work. So what you want to do is to convert all of your strength damage bonus to spell damage, so that it works as a spell damage as well. And then you want to convert that spell damage into attack damage thanks to Crown of Ice. But here's the kicker: it works at 150% efficiency. So you're not getting 1% per 5 strength at this point. You get 1% per like 1.5% per 5 strength, right? So your strength becomes even stronger when it comes to how much % damage it gives you. So as a basic concept, I've been doing that pretty much since they added Iron Will to the game, which was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. That was like what, around maybe Scourge League, maybe 3.16, something like that. I'm not sure. But many years ago, since then, I'm pretty much doing strength stacking very often and abusing Iron Will to its fullest, and it works very nicely. So we're getting this part over here, then we're pathing through through life, getting some regeneration in the build as well. As you can see, we have massive regen, but we're going to talk about pros and cons after I'm done with the tree. We also get some stats to free up, you know, possibility of having to invest into attributes on your rings or something like that. We have dexterity and intelligence here. We have dexterity here. We have some intelligence here. There's many places where you get some dexterity and intelligence to make the pathing, you know, like not pathing, but to make the itemizing like a little bit less annoying, if you will. We're going crit. We're using Brutus. So Brutus is like has insane. I know this is one with corruption, but honestly, this shouldn't be too hard to get. But Brutus has absolutely insane critical strike chance. It will be kind of waste to use that without going crit. It's very, very easy to get 50, 60, 70, 80%, or even 100% crit with Brutus. Very, very easy. It's too easy, right? So getting this life here, getting armor. This one node for +1 armor per 2 strength, very nice. Gives us a good amount of flat. Ignore this, by the way. I know it's 127 or over 123. It's because I use these 4 points to get the relic thing. For some reason, I tried to type it over here in custom modifiers. No matter what I typed, literally it didn't work. So I decided to just say, screw it. I'm going to put 4 points in here and mention that, you know, and mention that I get my relics here, right, from this jewel. Going this way, rage generation, very important. Whether you take this rage cluster or this rage cluster is up to you, but it's very, very important because it's just literally more damage multiplier, right? With the intimidated. Then going this way, another endurance charge, some aura for, you know, to free up some mana reservation, and this huge, insane crit cluster. That's one of the best crit clusters in the game. One of the reasons why Brutus works so well with crit. This cluster also very good, and then this life chaos resistance and this area, very, very strong area. Templar starting area is very, very strong, generally speaking. And that's about it. That's how the tree looks like. Of course, I know it's 100. This is level 100 build pretty much. But at lower levels, of course, there's some points you will be dropping. Like for example, this 3-point life cluster, not a big deal. If you're gonna drop it, you're gonna lose 400 health, right? Boom. 3 points here, something like that, right? Like 2 points here, for example, a little bit damage loss. You'll be dropping gradually until you get to like level 95, 97, which is, million times easier and faster to get in PoE1 compared to PoE2, and it shouldn't really be a big problem. Alright, so let's talk about pros and cons. I know I did that in the wrong order, but, so be it. It is what it is. The pros of this build, very, very high damage. I know it in thumbnail, I put this number. This is actually more than that, because what Smite does is Smite gives you the melee hit and area hit at the same time. If you have non-vol strike skills target, X additional nearby enemies, you will hit by positioning in the right place from your melee hit and from area hit. So on this relatively, mediocre budget, I'm already doing about, close to 30 million damage. And of course, you can get much more than that with this build. It's strength stacker, so it never stops scaling pretty much. But yeah, already sitting at this amount of damage, and you can get even more. I'm going to have two versions. One that is exactly this, which is like, I don't know, 15 divine, 20 divine budget, and one that is like much less expensive, literally like 5 divines, and you're going to see for yourself that the numbers are very high. But anyway, pros: very high damage, insane damage for this budget in my opinion. It's just crazy damage. Paladin adds so much damage, and the best part about Paladin is that, excuse me, these relics on this already like, okay budget still add about 25% more damage. They add way more on lower budgets. That's the thing. Like, you're going to do your cruel lab, you're going to get these relics, and you will literally one-shot everything in the campaign and in like early maps, everything, because this adds just so much damage, insane amount of damage from these. So that's a very cool thing about it. The tankiness is very high. We use, for the defensive layers, we use of course 75 all resistance, 76 fire, but also we use, as I mentioned before, 7 endurance charges. Also the block from Iron Fortress, very high amount of block chance, block capped. Spell block doesn't really matter because Iron Fortress makes you your block spell damage is unlucky anyway, so it's not worth to invest into spell block on this build. So yeah, block, endurance charges, very high alive because we're strength stacking. Insane recovery because we get, the consecrated ground. You can invest, of course, into flasks if you want, flask effect. But consecrated ground, a lot of regeneration passives. On top of that, we get Enduring Cry, additional regeneration per endurance charge. The regeneration is massive. So all of these defensive flares should make this build very tanky. Honestly, I've made like similar versions of this build on league starts, and this one feels like the strongest and the tankiest. It feels even tankier than the Juggernaut because this regeneration is insane, so high. Of course, we have Fortify as well. I have Fortify here. We're gonna get to it in a second, but I have Fortify in my link, so Fortify is very easy to get at all times, right? So that's about it. Very tanky, very high damage. I would say the only small disadvantage is that it's relatively slow. The area from Vol Smite and from Smite is going to be very good, but the speed is, for instance, like, for example, I'm just going to show you. For example, this is my jug that I usually used to play with. It was very fast, and it had about 6.3 attacks per second, like, at the similar budget. This one will have about 5 attacks per second. I think the same for lower budget. Yeah, it's exactly the same. So it's not going to be as fast, and of course that will slow the speed at which you're going to leap slam with. But I think it's still very good, and there are ways to increase attack speed. Speed I know is king in PoE, but you can't have everything, right? It's just one thing that this build will struggle with a little bit. Later on, also on higher budgets, you can invest into cluster jewels, and with cluster jewels is a great way to increase your attack speed dramatically. So something to keep in mind, right? On higher budgets, you could completely fix that problem and get stronger at the same time. So that's kind of cool. So that's about it. Items, Brutus. I can't believe why this item is like always one chaos, literally at the start of the league. Like I'll tell you, I'll tell you how the league start. From my league start looks like when I make like a strength stacker with Brutus. Like I start playing the game, right? Around Act 3, Act 4, whatever, like Act 5 sometimes, I'm going to find Chaos Orb. Like, I don't know, 2 hours, 3 hours into the start, into the beginning of the league. And I'm just going to use that Chaos Orb to buy Brutus. And that's it. Like, this item, nobody starts with, I don't know why. This item is so strong. It's not hard to get relatively decent amounts of strength. And this item will always give you more damage than whatever rare weapon you're going to find. Always. Because even at low levels, you're going to be sitting at 300, about 400 strength, because you'll be pathing through like these areas, right? You have a lot of strength here. Then you're going to eventually get to this point, massive amount of strength. Then you're going to get some strength in the rings or whatever. This will give you so much flat damage, always. And I don't understand why this weapon is always 1C. It's completely like dirt cheap. But you know, that's what I do, and the campaign is super easy, right? It's super quick. Wrath-based Globe. This item gives us spell damage per 100 player maximum life. You might be asking, why the hell would you want spell damage? Is because we have Iron Will and Crown of Ice. So this actually, for 100 maximum life, this actually gives you 7.5% increased attack damage, right? Because it converts. So at 8,000 life, we're going to have, this gives us 600% increased attack damage at 8,000 life. Actually, the total life counts because I have reserved life, so it's actually 75% more still. As you can see, if I'm going to drop this, I lose 6 million. I mean, this shield itself gives me 65%, so it's absolutely insane for strength stackers. Not all of them, but for many it is. Crown of Ice, very simple. This item is not as cheap as it used to be. I remember leagues where this item, every league was 1 chaos instantly, and you didn't have to wait. I think like last league or last 2 leagues, it was like 40 chaos at the start, and then it just started dropping. That being said, this is still a very common unique, so you shouldn't have problems getting that, right? Iron Fortress. This is of course the like mid-budget. You could totally just use like a regular chest piece. This is like literally the crappiest chest of all time. And as you can see, Iron Fortress doesn't add that much damage, but it also adds block. It will block cap you, so Iron Fortress, in my opinion, is still going to be best in slot. But that's debatable. Depends on if you actually want even more damage than that, because this damage is actually enough. And once again, this is like 15-20 divine budget. This is nothing special. This is usually what I have day 3, day 4, right? So at this budget, like this is probably enough to like clear tier 17 maps, or at least not consistently, because that depends, but you could totally use, if you just want to farm tier 16s over and over and over again, then you don't need that much damage. You really don't. So you could just get Glorious Plate. You could put like Searing Exarch, or that was Ether, I don't remember, a modifier that gives you less damage taken per strength, and aura effect after that, or something else, like whatever you want, and boom. Or you could even get Elder plate with like massive amount of armor, strength, and percent strength. That's gonna work perfectly fine as well. So it's up to you, really. You have options here. This is like a kind of like a no-brainer, right? It also reduces your movement speed, so that's kind of annoying. But this item, I don't know if it's going to be expensive, but you can just easily get it and get massive amount of damage. But I think that rare armor, a very good rare armor, is definitely going to compete very closely. You're definitely going to get tankier, right? And of course, the good thing is that you don't need to get life on your chest piece at all, because there is the mastery that gives you 15%. With this amount of strength, this mastery gives absolutely massive amount of life of 426 right now, as you can see. So that's great. Then rare gauntlets, I think, are going to be the best with Vol Strike skills. Target one additional nearby enemy, non-Vol Strike skills. and fire exposure, but you can also get something else. The important thing is here you want to get strength and attack speed, period. Preferably like, chaos resistance if you can get it as well. But the most important things is high strength, high attack speed here. So that's it. Albert's Warpath, there is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't use that. I'm assuming that late game you probably could find something better. But this is not like my late game build. I have other late game builds already prepared. This is just going to be a league starter. So getting Alberon Warpath for 1 chaos early on is going to be easy peasy. And then you're probably not going to pay very much for maximum endurance charge corruption as well. Should be cheap should be like super cheap. Zov's Blood usually at the start of the league is around 1 divine, and this is one of the best amulets for this build because it gives you everything you want really, like life, strength, percent strength, penetration. Avatar of Fire is not useless. Cover enemy in ash. This is like literally 20% damage multiplier because when the enemy hits you, they get 20% fire damage taken mod on them. So this amulet is absolutely insane. On even lower budgets, of course, you can use Rare Amulet with as much strength as possible, or Astramentis. Astramentis is going to be the same price as this, though, more or less. Then for mid-budget Helical Rings, these are nothing special. You can definitely get much better than these. But for even lower budget, you can literally just get turbo trash rings like this, right? You literally find yourself a coral ring. You're going to slap a few essences, and you're most likely going to get something better than this already. So, yeah. And as you can see, there's not even that big of a difference because you can get miles better than this rings. I mean, on higher budgets, like the sky is the limit of what we can get nowadays with Calandra's like reflection thing, right? Belt, very simple, 15% increased strength implicit. And then with Catalyst, you get it 18%. For a budget, you want to just get heavy belt, literally with essence for strength, and then wait until you find life, and that's it. If you can find something like chaos resistance or resistance, generally speaking, that's going to be even better. But yeah, I mean, it's that simple. You can use Cyclopean Coiled Soul if you want, but it's not like super good, but you can. Then for the flasks, Basalt Flask, Silver Flask, Amethyst Flask, Diamond Flask. Honestly, Diamond is mandatory and Silver is mandatory. Basalt is nice. After that, it's really whatever you want. Roomies also you can drop. It's totally fine. You can use Quicksilver. You might call me crazy, but I just leap slam all the time. So movement speed is not necessarily something I really care about that much. But, so I just use Roomies, but you can use Quicksilver, you can use whatever you want, really, right? I think this setup is going to be just fine. But the important thing, the most important thing here that you want on your jewels that you're going to have is attack speed, double attack speed, right? So attack speed with maces and scepters and attack speed with shields should be dirt cheap. And then if you can find strength, that's better. And if you can find all attributes or strength, dex, strength, and something like that, that's even better, right? And that's literally it. The most important stats are attack speed, and then if you can get other useful stats, then that's going to be even better. And that's pretty much it. I'm gonna check real fast the configuration before someone is gonna call me. Oh, you have everything selected. No. So how do we get power charges? There's two ways. First of all, we use power charges by using Assassin's Mark on hit. This will make you pretty much have power charges permanently by itself. Even on bosses, you'll generate them slowly. But the other thing that we have is we have this over here, 10% chance to gain power charge when you stun with melee damage. With this amount of damage, you'll be getting power charges all the freaking time. Especially that this also reads as reduced enemy stun threshold with mace and scepters, so it's going to be even easier to do that. So with stuns, you will get power charges all the time. Frenzy charges we obviously get from Blood Rage. Endurance charges we obviously get from Enduring Cry, and we get them permanently. Fortify because of the support. You could use, I mean, do I even have like something that would give me more damage here? Oh, right. I mean, I guess technically if you wanted more damage, you could get that. That would require some changes. because you would probably have to invest into. You have two options. First option, you could get Fortify on hit corruption here. Second option would be to get. There is option number two, which is getting this cluster and dropping something. Option number three is getting Celestial Brace, I guess. That would give you a decent amount of attack speed too. So that could be an option, but at the same time you would lose the null strike skills, target one additional nearby enemy. So something you need to keep in mind. That being said, if you want to drop Fortify, feel like that you're tanky enough, because this build, even without Fortify, is going to be very tanky. Generally speaking, 7 endurance charges and a lot of life. But if you wanted to, you could. I use Fortify. It is what it is. Then Rage, obviously Rage you get from this. So you have 2 Rage on melee hit. You should be able to keep very high amount all the time. Ground, as you can, as I mentioned before, you can pick 40% effect of magic flasks instead. It's going to be totally fine. Auras from your relics, and enemy taunted from the Ascendancy as well, and covered in ash from the amulet. Right, I don't have anything else selected, and this is Guardian Pinnacle boss. The build does absolutely insane amount of damage, and once again, relatively low budget. As you can see, I have a low budget here. I'm going to link both POBs in the description. This one does, this is with Relic, right? Yes. And this one does 9 plus almost 7, about 16 million Shaper DPS. And that is literally like disgusting, like dirt cheap. Like, I'm going to go over this real fast. 1C, whatever, I don't know, might be like 1 divine or 2 divines even at the start of the league, but you know, this should be super cheap. This is literally 1C chest. It's going to be a 6 thing, so let's just say 1 divine. This is going to be like, I don't know, 50C, 1C. There's going to be 1 divine at the start, 1C ring, 1C ring, 1C belt. You don't need that. Like, for attack speed, just 1C jewels. This one is going to be more expensive, sure, but you could take it off even. It's not needed. You can get another jewel here for attack speed. Boom, it's almost the same. And that's it. That's literally it. No awakened gems here, nothing whatsoever. Right, that's it. So 5 divines, more or less, depending on how much this shield is going to cost, but more or less 5 divines budget. And you're still sitting at 7.1k life. You still get the endurance charges. You still get everything, all the goodies, and massive regeneration and very high damage. So I feel like this build is going to be very strong, a very strong starter. The numbers are absolutely insane for this budget, and it's going to be smooth during campaign also because we play Paladin. Paladin with relics during campaign is going to be insane. But generally speaking, Brutus during campaign is very good because you just get so much flat damage for free, so you don't need to ever worry about weapon. Get 1C, buy Brutus from someone, and you're done. Your weapon is done forever. Then you can just buy one with corruption, right? So that's about it. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. Any questions, let me know down in the comments. I'm going to still modify this because I started POBing, I guess is the word. I don't know. I started POBing recently, so I bet that there's some small improvements I could make there and there. But yeah, made already. I prepared some builds. Here is my endgame build. I even did some behemoth tech for memes with armor stacking. This behemoth actually looking pretty okay, but this is gonna be expensive. This is already with mage blood because you can't stack armor without mage blood. So we will see where this event is going to take us, but I'm very excited to play and stream PoE for the first time also. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and see you in the next video.